All right, guys, welcome to Free Training Thursday. Today's docket, we got Office Tools e-signatures, getting that going, kind of getting familiar with how the process is going to work. We're going to walk through it step by step and make sure that everybody is able to go ahead and get connected. While everybody is joining, we're just going to walk through a little PowerPoint here just to get familiar with what we're going to cover, and then we'll go through. If anybody has any sort of questions or anything like that, please do feel free to jot that right into the question section of the webinar, and we'll be more than happy to try to answer those here on this call. So if you have questions, please feel free to throw those into the questions area inside the webinar, and we will go from there. Okay. So e-signatures, a relatively new tool that we've brought into the Office Tools arena. It's a pretty cool tool. It's very competitively priced, and we're going to cover basically how the process is going to work while you're working through Office Tools. So just a little bit of a PowerPoint for you guys. A couple of the things that we're going to be covering: pricing, some email templates, IRS compliant versus non-compliant, and the difference between those when you would use them, spouse signature requirements, and then the OTP web service, which is very, very, very important to the whole process, the OTP web service. So we're going to cover a lot. It's going to range from pricing to some tech support aspects, but it's going to be very informative today. If you guys need any follow-up support, please do feel free to visit us, abacusnext.com/support. All of the emails and information that you need should be there. And you can also sign up for upcoming webinars as needed, abacusnext.com/webinars. That's essentially all we got for the slideshow, because we really want to focus in on the actual e-signature stuff. So we're going to jump into the software now to get familiar with all of this. So basically, to start off with, we have our pricing, and I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of what that pricing is. That way, anything that you might have heard is cleared up. Some people get on the line and they don't fully understand it. So the pricing for the e-signatures that we currently have right now, there's no extra fee to have the service available. It's available for everybody that has a portal login. But where the pricing does come in is when you have completed documents that have been signed through the e-signature service and you get them back. At that point, you are charged, and it is 50 cents per completed document. Now, the reason why this isn't always immediately obvious is that it is not per signature, it is not per page signed, it is actually per completed document. So if you have a PDF that has 1,000 pages and 1,000 signatures, well, as long as it's all in one file, you will only be charged 50 cents. The additional caveat to this is that it is 50 cents per completed document. And what that means is that you do have to send it out to your client. The client will have to sign it, and you will have to get it back in order for us to charge you. If the client declines, or for whatever reason they never get it or never open it or whatever it is, you are not charged at that point. You are only charged once the client has completely signed their document and it comes back to you. So just wanted to keep you guys in the loop on that, because some people get that a little skewed up, especially in comparison with other e-signature providers. This is 50 cents per completed signed document that you guys receive back. Okay. So the process to the e-signature stuff is outlined a little bit in the user guide that you can find under the help area. But what you guys will need to do if you are not using e-signatures currently is you will need to get that activated. And the way to activate it is by going to OfficeTools.com and actually entering into the store. Go into the store and click login. Get your login information. If you don't know it, you can click forgot password in there. But what you need to do is, once you're in the store, you will need to go into the billing information and put your credit card there. That is how we bill you for the completed signatures. So Office Tools store, or OfficeTools.com. Go click on login. It takes you to the store. You can either type in your email and password if you already know your login. Otherwise, go ahead and just click forgot password. And then that should take you into the actual store where you'll click on billing information and put in your credit card info. Okay. That will light the e-signatures button up in the documents tab. So if you guys are looking at yours and that e-signatures button is grayed out, that typically means that you have not put in your credit card yet. So just keep that in mind. That's the step number one. If you don't have that, you can't access it. Okay. And then just one more clarification on the billing. When you guys get billed, it's not going to come out as a bunch of 50-cent transactions. It's going to charge you monthly for any completed e-signatures at that point. So it's going to charge you one lump sum at the end of the month for any e-signatures that have been processed and completed. So understand that too. You're not going to have a bunch of 50-cent transactions on your card. It's just going to be one for the whole entire lump sum. Okay. So that's going to activate the e-signatures button for you and prepare you to actually use this feature. There isn't much setup required within the program itself to actually use the e-signatures part. The only thing that we do have as far as quote unquote setup, if you go under the setup menu and then go to my company information and settings, you guys will notice that there is an e-signatures button here. If we go ahead and click on that, this is where you can access the email templates that can be sent out to the client. There are 3 different templates. I'm hoping this pops up here. I'm on a little bit of a weird connection right now. But it's 3 different ones: the completed one, the declined one, and then the expired one. So those 3 different email templates are accessible from inside of here. So you can see this email settings tab. You have your request notification, decline notification, and completed notification. So by default, your header image is actually going to be the OfficeTools image that you see here. So if you want it to be, your logo or whatnot, make sure to come in here and plug that in. Otherwise, it's going to say OfficeTools Building Digital Firms when it goes out to your clients. So you want to make this tailored to you guys. Okay? So again, we're under Setup, My Company, Information and Settings. Click on the e-signatures button at the bottom, and then the email settings tab up here at the top. And right now we're on header image, so make sure again that if you want it to be something different than what we have here, that you go ahead and insert that using your browse option. Put your logo in there and that should be good. Then you have request notification, decline notification, and completed notification. What this means is these are the emails that go out when you request a signature. If the client declined a signature, they'll get an email. And if they complete a signature, they'll get an email. And we do have templated emails that are already set up, but if you wanted to create your own, feel free to type that in here, and then you can hit the preview button to see what that will actually look like. So this is only if you want to customize your messages. Otherwise, it's just going to go out with our template, which has basic information on how to access the document itself. So you don't need to do anything here if you don't want to. But if you want to customize it a little bit, say something more about your firm or whatever it might be, this is where you can access the templates that are being sent out. But most importantly, and what most people do, is just change their header image. Put their logo in here so it doesn't show ours, and then you guys should be good. Make sure you guys take a look at this best results. 600 by 208 pixels, that should be your image size. So kind of take that into consideration when you're inserting this. Just to make sure, again, that it shows up as best as it possibly can. Okay. Just as a reminder, for those of you guys who entered in a little late, if you guys have any questions while we're going through this, please feel free to throw those into the questions section on the webinar itself. Okay. So 50 cents per completed document. When you get it back, you get charged. You have your image. Make sure that you populate that in with your logo, some templates for emails, and then you guys should be good to go. The general settings option here really only applies if you guys are going to send out form letters, or you guys are planning on trying to send out form letters as e-signatures. And what that basically means is just that you have a template, like an engagement letter or something like that, that's templated out with the signatures preset already filled in, and you guys should be good to go. A lot of people get excited with that and they think, oh, we're going to use that for 8879s. That's going to be perfect. We're going to put the signatures where we want them and it'll work great. One thing that you have to consider is that if the document has client-specific information, you cannot set it as a template. In order to have a template, we have to have the document, and we already have to know where you put the signature. So typically, documents that have client-specific information on them will not work with your form letters. Anything that does have the client-specific stuff will have to be a single request, meaning you'll have to send it out individual. The single request default settings just means, are you going to use IRS compliance by default, or are you going to download into document management by default? This box should absolutely be checked for the download into document management. So if you guys are following along, make sure that you have that box checked. All right. The use IRS compliance. If you're primarily going to be using the e-signatures for your 8878s and 8879s, then I would highly recommend that you check that, because that's just going to have that pre-filled in, already ready to go for you, where you don't have to select it every single time. So if you're planning on doing mostly your e-file forms, please check this box. If you're going to run the gamut, you're going to send out engagement letters and you're going to send out maybe some organizers, or a combination of both your e-file forms and other things, then you don't need to check this by default. But just keep that in mind. This is an option for you. And if you are primarily going to do your 8878s and 8879s, please check this box. It'll just help out. Other than that, that's really all there is in the setup part. There's not really much there. The major thing, again, is just to make sure that you've logged into our store and that you've put in your credit card information. That way the e-signatures button activates so you can actually click on it. Once you're at this point, we're going to talk a little bit about how to actually process e-signatures, and I'll show you kind of how the process works. We'll talk about IRS compliant versus non-compliant, just what the difference is in our program and how you can access both of them. So one major thing that you will need to know is that in order to use the e-signatures feature, you will need to have PDFs, and those PDFs do need to exist inside the Documents tab. You can't really use the e-signatures feature without using our document management system at least a little bit. So you do have to have your documents in OfficeTools under the Documents tab in order to send them out for e-signature. And you can only send PDFs. If you are trying to send a Word document or something like that, it's not going to work. You have to send a PDF. So in this case, I have a templated, downloaded off the internet 8879 form here, just because that's typically what we're going to be looking at. So if I want to send this out to this client, right, because right now I'm on Casey and Anatola. If I want to send this out to the client, all I do is select it in the Documents tab and then click on e-signatures. And when I do that, I have a couple options. Send selected document to be signed, send a form letter, manage form letters, or manage requests. Typically, you're going to be using send selected document, because again, unless you're sending something out that's not client specific that you want them to sign, you will only be using single serve, or one document at a time. So in this case, I want to send this 8879 out to my client. I'm going to go ahead and click on send selected document to be signed. It will then pull open a preview of the PDF itself. All of your pages will be over here on the left-hand side. So you can click through and put your signatures where you want them. And you can scroll through, and to set a signature, all you do is go ahead and right-click and then go to New Signature field. You also have the capability of doing print name, initials, and date. So whatever you guys want to place, feel free. We're going to do a new signature here. Put it on the line, so you can move these around. You can stretch this, right? So you can grab it, move it around, do whatever you need to do with that, okay? And then in the drop-down menu, you will have the ability to access both the husband and wife, spouse's information, and then the staff member. So if you wanted to sign a document, you have the capability of doing that as well. Okay. In this case, we'll stick with Casey on this, and then we can do a date. And so we'll also put the date field here, make sure that that's Casey's name. Done. And then I can drop down to the spouse's information here, and I can put the spouse's signature. So in this case, we'll do new signature. Open that up to the whole line, and then we'll drop the menu down and choose Anatola. Same thing for the date. We go ahead and insert a new date field here. Expand it, just, and this is just optional. You don't have to do that. If you don't want to stretch it out, you don't have to, but make sure that the proper signature person is filled in on the proper field. That's the important part. If this gets crossed and you have Casey down here, then your e-signature, technically, if you got audited, it'd fail, right? Because it would show that Casey signed the date for the spouse. So make sure that you put the right name in the right spot. So at this point, we have our signatures placed. We're looking good. We could go through the rest of the document and make sure that it's all updated. All the signatures are in the right place. But then we have the opportunity to use IRS compliance. And again, just as a heads up, you do not have to send out your e-signatures with the IRS compliance. The only documents that you have to have the IRS compliance on in order to make sure that it's viable is your 8879s and 8878s. Those are the only two e-signature forms from the IRS that we do accept or support. If it's any other type of form from any other type of entity, it will not work. It does have to be 8879s and 8878s. It can be any form of that form, right? So it could be 8879H or whatever it is, but it does have to be those form numbers. Anything else is not supported by the IRS compliance. Okay, you can still send it out, but it just won't be supported. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Only 8879s and 8878s are supported by the e-signature field. When we check off the use IRS compliance, what that allows us to do is choose a couple major pieces of information. First of all, they will have to create a PIN in order to access the document, and they'll get instructions, and we'll walk through that. Secondly, is that you have 3 different pieces of knowledge-based authentication that you can require. Okay, you can require 1 or 3, whatever you guys want. We fulfill up to tier 2 of the IRS compliance requirements for these e-signature fields, okay, or these e-signature forms. But you can use one of 3. You can either use their social security number, date of birth, or a custom question, or a combination of any of those. So you could have all 3, you could have 2 of them, you could have 1 of them, whatever you want. Social security number, date of birth, or a custom question that you guys develop. And we'll walk through that here in just 1 second. Okay. But that's what the IRS compliance does, is it makes them create a PIN. It has them do one of or a combination of all 3 of those fields, and that's how they'll actually get into the document itself. So let's go ahead and send this one for signature. So I'm going to go ahead and hit send for signature. And you can see here, in order to ensure your document is IRS compliant, you must enable at least one of these fields, okay, knowledge-based authentication, in order for that to work. Okay, so we got to pick one. Do we want social security number, date of birth, custom question, or 1 or more of all of them? So in this case, I'm just going to leave all 3 as our option. So I'm going to click OK. Then I have the ability at this point to create my custom questions. So for Casey, for example, I entered in how do you spell your name, and then put in the answer. But you can put in whatever you want. If we want to put in here, what month is it? Let's make it actually grammatically correct. And then we put in here, February. And then I can go down here to Anatola, same thing. And I can choose from my list of questions. So you have to develop them in order to have them here. But once you have it in here, it is a drop-down menu that you are allowed to choose from. Okay, so it's not like you have to rebuild the same question multiple times over and over and over again. All right. Once you have it in here, it will be available for any client that you want to send out e-signatures for. Obviously, you would just change the answer. So in this case, for Anatola, we have how do you spell your name, and then for Casey, we have what month is it, and then we click OK. So last part to this, we've placed our signatures. We've chosen our IRS compliance. We've hit send for signature. We've chosen which fields we want. We've customized our questions. Now we go ahead and just send it out for signature. Document has been uploaded. One major thing that a lot of people think here is that the e-signatures uploads to the portal, and it does not. So the client does not have to have a portal account in order for you to use the e-signatures part. Okay, you can see this client's not set up on the portal. All right, so just understand that. That's the biggest part of this, is that a lot of people think, hey, we got to have a portal account for this client. It's going to upload to the portal. That's how they're going to access it. That's actually not true. It's going to go direct to their email address. Okay, we're going to talk about some requirements here in just 1 second to make sure that all this works for you. All right, but it actually goes directly to their email. So I actually set up this email in order to test this out for us. So I just pulled this open, and you can see it says, Casey, you have been requested to sign the following document. Okay, click here to sign it. So we'll go ahead and click. When we do that, we have to enter in our PIN. Now, I already have a PIN set up for this client, but if I didn't, the first email I would get would be to create the PIN. It would ask, hey, you got to create a PIN. It's 4 digits, and then we would get this email, and we would just log back in using that PIN we just created. So in this case, I'm going to enter in my 4-digit PIN, hit submit, and then it's going to ask me a couple questions, and this is going to be based off of the options that I chose when I set this up for the IRS compliant part. You can see it asked me for my date of birth, the last 4 digits of my social security number, and the custom question that we designed. So in this case, I have all of that information in here. So we can see date of birth is today. Happy birthday, Casey. So we'll put in his birthday, and then a year is 1981. So we'll go ahead and throw that in there. Last 4 of the social, 6789. And then what month is it? Okay. So watch what happens here. Check this out. I'm going to write in February here, and I'm going to hit submit. And guess what it's going to do? At this point, it allows me in. So I put in all of that information. We're good to go. Now I go ahead and agree to the e-signature agreement. If they want to read it, they can. And then I hit continue. And now I, choose my stuff. If I want to change my name or change my initials, whatever it is. And now I'm inside the document. Okay, and I'm in a web browser right now. I'm not in the portal. I didn't log into anything. I just answered my questions and I got to my file. So now at this point, I can scroll through it and I can see everywhere that I need to sign or date or any other piece of information that might be in here. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to go ahead and click sign. And once I've signed everything, the sign document button down here at the bottom left will light up. And this will allow me to finish it. If they don't want to sign it, then they don't have to. They can hit decline, and that'll send it back to you and let them know that let you know that they didn't sign it. Okay, it'll send them an email letting them know that they declined to sign this. Okay, but in this case, I'm going to go ahead and hit sign. At this point, you've successfully signed this, so we're good to go. Now, if I come back here to my inbox, watch what happens. Eventually, we'll see how quick this is right now. We already got one. Okay, we can see. Anatola, you've been requested to sign the following document. So one major thing that's come up quite often is a lot of our clients, OfficeTools clients, are asking, hey, so when I send out the e-signatures, it's not going to the spouse. Well, the way that this works is that it actually goes subsequently. So when you send it out, it goes to the first person. Then it follows up and goes into the second person. Okay, so it doesn't go all at once to everybody. They do have to sign it in order. So the main taxpayer will sign it first, then it'll go to the spouse like it just did. Okay, so we're in here, click to sign, same thing. I already have a PIN set up for Anatola as well. Go ahead and submit. We have to answer the same information, and this is pulling from the OfficeTools information, guys. Okay, forgot to tell you that part. So if you don't have their social security number or their date of birth in here, It will throw you an error when you first set it up. Also, if you have it in there incorrectly, that's going to cause a problem for them. So make sure that you have that right information if you're going to use it. Okay. So over here we got date of birth is going to be 3/1/86. So go ahead and put March 1st, 1986. Last four digits of the social security number is 4321. And then how do you spell your name? Anatola. Same exact stuff that we just went through. We agree to the agreement, hit continue, choose our information, click OK. Then we sign it at the spouse. So you'll notice that it's already signed by Casey up here at the top. Okay. So that's already done. We can only sign it for the person who's in here. So if I am Anatola, I can't sign it for Casey. If I'm Casey, I can't sign it for Anatola. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and hit sign. Signed document, same thing. You've successfully signed it. We're good to go. We're going to jump back to our inbox here and watch what happens. Okay. Now that both people have signed it, a few things are going to happen right now. And they're going to happen in order. Number one is that the client is going to receive an email with the signed copy of that document. Okay. Here it is. Okay. Casey's going to get one. Okay, we can access this document. You can see the link is valid for 30 days only, so they will need to save this. Okay. This is for Casey. Okay. And you can see also Anatola also got one. Okay, same thing. Eventually, if I had my email open, the client, right, you guys, whoever sent it in your office would also receive an email letting you know that it's been downloaded or that it's been completed. And the best part about all of it is that if we jump over here to the Documents tab, and we're going to refresh this, you can see that it downloads back into OfficeTools Documents tab automatically with signed at the end. And if we open this up, this might take a few seconds, okay? But if we open this up, we can see that the form itself has been signed and dated appropriately. And it has this third page with all of the document trail. So this is all of the information that the IRS would need in order to validate that this has been properly signed. It has all of the information. It has all of the check details, verified with knowledge-based authentication. It has all of the information that you guys would need if necessary. So this will attach automatically. This downloads back into OfficeTools automatically. There's nothing that you guys need to do during this process in order to get this right, okay? That's how the e-signatures process works. Okay. Click on it, e-signatures, send selected document to be signed. At that point, you place your signatures, choose your IRS compliance. If it doesn't have any, the process is exactly the same. They just don't answer any questions to access it. They click on it, it opens up, they sign it, and it goes through. That's it. Now, there's two major things that you guys need to have in place in order for this to work. All right. The first and the most important, and this doesn't just touch e-signatures. So if you guys are using the portal or you guys are using auto reminders or anything like that, you will need to go into the setup menu up here at the top. You'll need to go into My Company, Information and Settings, and you will need to click on Integrations. Setup, My Company, Information and Settings, Integrations. Inside of here, you will see this OTP web service. If this does not say service running, then you guys have a problem. If it says faulted or it says pending, that means that this feature will not work. Okay? The e-signatures part will work. It will go out to the client. They'll be able to sign it, but you will never get it back. It'll never download back into OfficeTools. Okay. So you want to make sure that you guys have this running. Okay. Also, your auto reminders, some aspects of the portal, some of those things won't be running either. So if you guys are having issues with that stuff, double check this, because this is probably the reason why it's not working. Okay. So setup, My Company, Information and Settings, Integrations, and then you'll see the OTP web service here, and you will want to make sure that this says service running. Very important. Okay? Very, very, very important here. All right, so that'll make sure that your e-signatures are working. Now, there's a couple other pieces of information in order, especially for spouse information, that you guys will need to have in order to send e-signatures out to a client. Okay, even the main client, they need a few pieces of information. Number one is that they have to have an email address filled in to the email field. They have to have it. If they don't have this in here, the e-signatures will not work because it sends to their email address. Okay, so you have to have that filled in. You have to have that as part of the contact record in order for it to work, especially in for the main client. If you don't have it for the main client at all, then you're going to run into a problem. Okay, so that's requirement number one. Requirement number two, and some that a lot of people don't know, especially on the spouse level, is that anybody that you want to send an e-signature to will need to have both a first name and a last name. So they need to have an email address and they need to have a first name and a last name in order to send an e-signature. That's not for IRS. That's for anything. It has to have that. If you have clients in here that don't have a last name, you're trying to send them an e-signature, it will not work. If they don't have an email, it will not work. So you will need to make sure that those pieces of information are filled in regardless of the type of document that you're sending. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Even if it's not going to be IRS compliant, they still need their first name and their last name filled in. Now, if it is going to be IRS compliant, then you can do yourself a favor and go ahead and plug in the date of birth and the social security numbers for those clients. And you can see that those fields are located over here. So you want to make sure that it's listed as an individual if it's an 8879, 8878 individual client. So that way you can put in the social and the date of birth. Okay, make sure that you have that in there. All right. So that's a very big piece of this. Now let's talk about the more contacts area. So if you guys don't know, this is where you access the spouse's information. Here's all of Casey's. We can see that Casey is the main contact. But if we jump over here to Anatola, we can see that Anatola is listed as a dependent. And although that's a slightly bad tax terminology because she's not actually a dependent, she's the spouse. By listing it as the dependent, you will be able to label her as the spouse. That's a requirement. Okay. So not only do you have to have first name, last name in there as an additional contact as the spouse, they also need to be labeled as a dependent and as a spouse. Okay. And then last but not least, they definitely need to have an email address in here as well. So you can't just rely on one email. Both taxpayers will need to have an email address filled into their record. Now, as you can see, the email address does not have to be unique, as we saw as our example lent us to it. It can be the same email address twice. It just has to be in both spots. We can't just have it in the main contact. We have to have it in the spouse as well. Okay. So we need it as a dependent, first name and last name, relationship listed as spouse, an email address filled in, even if it's not unique. And then obviously if you're doing 8879s or 8878s, you will need social security number and birth date. That will allow you to send the e-signatures to both spouses and everything work nice and neat. Okay. And those are the basic requirements for the staff side and for the portal side or the web service side. You'll need to have those things in here and running in order to make sure that all of this flows smoothly. Okay. So just as a recap, the OTP web service can be accessed by going to Setup, My Company, Information and Settings. Then you're going to click on Integrations, and you'll see it on the right-hand side. If it is faulted or if it is pending and it's just stuck there, then you will need to contact our support team and have them help you get that fixed up. Okay, that's how you're going to have to do that. The training team doesn't really have access to the servers, which is where that service is. So you will need to contact our support team directly, and they should be able to help you identify what the issue is on that. Okay. And then second piece to the pie is that all e-signature eligible people will need to have first name, last name, social security number, date of birth if it's for IRS compliance, and spouses need to be listed as dependents / spouses and have an email filled into the screen. Whether it's unique or not, they need to have one. And that's really all there is to the e-signatures part, and actually getting it running, getting it set up. You guys have the basic knowledge at this point. The last piece of information that you guys will need to have, in your back pocket is what we call manage requests. So if you guys go to the documents tab now, okay, and we go into e-signatures, we'll see this option that says manage requests. And this is actually going to show us all of the requests that we've sent out, okay, if it's been completed, if it's been accepted, and all of the information that we need. Okay. So one thing about the manage requests screen here that's not always obvious that I do like to point out anytime I do an e-signatures training is that there are two hidden sidebar menus. So you'll see this little button with arrows on either side of the screen. If you click on those, it actually expands the window out into a completed manage requests field. So one thing, for example, if I go over here and I uncheck active and declined and check completed, okay, and let's just say we got downloaded in here as well, okay, we can see those, well, that document. This is the one that we were practicing on. This is a test I did earlier just to make sure I was ready for the webinar. So here's the 1236 one. This is the one that we finished. We have 2 of 2 signatures, and we can see over here in the activity feed everything that's happened. Right? Here's the name of the staff and the email address associated on the date and the action that was performed. Okay, so the request was sent. We got Casey, the email was sent. It was then viewed. Then they consented to sign it. Then they went ahead and signed it. Then the email was sent to Anatola. Same thing, viewed, consented, signed. So we can see the entire process and that it was downloaded back into OfficeTools from this menu. So this is where you can come to make sure that all of your e-signatures are processing correctly. If you need to send something back out, if you need to resend the email, right? Or you want to jump to the document that was downloaded, or jump to the client, or get rid of a signature request altogether, okay? Or filter down and take a look at all the ones that have expired so that way you can come back through and resend them out. This is where you can manage your requests more in bulk instead of going one at a time through each client. This is where you can come and see that. Okay? So play around with this menu. As you guys start using the e-signatures part, come into the manage requests, take a look at what's in here, and this should be a very helpful thing for you guys altogether to manage all of those requests. Okay. So real quick recap through everything. In order to activate e-signatures, you have to go to OfficeTools.com, log into the store, and put your credit card in the billing information section. Okay. Once you do that, your e-signatures button should light up. If you want to adjust the templates for the emails that we have already, you can go into the setup menu, My Company, Information and Settings, grab your e-signatures button right here, okay, and change your settings. Okay, you can change your. I remember how long this took to come back up. You got your logo that you can put in here. You can adjust the request sent, the declined, and the completed emails if you guys want to adjust those. Otherwise, just use the default that we already have going out. Make sure to put in your logo so it doesn't populate with ours. Here's the recommended size. Once you have all of that going, then just make sure under the contact that anybody you want to send an e-signature to has a first name, last name, email address, and if it's an 8879 or 8878 client, you will need to make sure that they have the date of birth, okay, and their social security number filled into there. Good. Next, under the more contacts area, make sure that the spouse is listed as a dependent and as a spouse, that they have an email address. Okay, it doesn't have to be unique, but they have to have one. Then that they have a social security number and date of birth as well. Then under the documents area, Make sure that you're sending PDFs. You can't send anything else, so you have to have the documents in document management in order to send them. You can only send PDFs out. Okay. Once you have your PDF in here, you can click e-signatures and then send selected document to be signed. That will pull up in a preview. You place your signatures, choose your IRS compliance, fill out the required details, whether it's social security number, date of birth, custom question, or combination, shoot it out. Then you can use manage request to manage it. Your clients will receive a series of emails in order to sign the document. Once they've signed it, it downloads back into OfficeTools automatically, alerts the staff member who sent the request, and then you guys should be done. Altogether, guys, that is the e-signatures piece. I hope that seeing it actually in action was helpful. Watching it go through the email chain of command and getting all of that underway. Hopefully that was eye-opening for you on your client level, what they're going to be doing. We do have a couple minutes. If you guys have any questions, throw them into that question section in the webinar. Otherwise, we're going to end this a little early today because we covered everything that we need to. If you guys remember something later on or have any questions on anything else, please feel free to email us directly, training@officetools.com. That comes to our training team. You can also email me directly if you would like. My email is B as in boy, my last name, which is Bonner, B as in boy, O, N as in Nancy, N as in Nancy, ER, at abacusnext.com. So bbonner@abacusnext.com. We did get a question in here. How come for the managing of requests, some say request sent, some say sent, and some say email sent? It's not always the same thing. The request can be sent out, then an email follow-up can be sent, and then after that, the actual signatures themselves can come through with multiple things. So if the request is sent, that's the beginning part. If you resend any emails or the email that says completed has been sent, all of that will be different statuses. So it depends on what stage you're in as to the status it is. It's not just generic email sent for everything because it's all happening through email. The request itself, when it's first sent, we'll get that. If it goes to the second client, that will be email sent. If you send them a follow-up or they've completed it, then that'll be sent. So there's different statuses in there depending upon what stage it's actually in. How do you send a follow-up? You just go to manage requests and then say resend email. So on the right-hand side here, you can say resend email, and that will allow you to send a follow-up as long as the document has not already been sent out or expired. If it's been expired, then you will need to resend it for e-signature. And again, remember, kind of like the portal, it does expire after 30 days. So if they haven't opened that email or accessed it within 30 days, that e-signature link is void, and you'll have to resend it out. All right, if there are any other questions, like I said, email us, training@officetools.com, bbonner@officetools, or at abacusnext.com. Anything that you guys need, let us know. We're going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you guys for joining. Take a look at the upcoming webinar schedule. Join in on any topics that you guys see that you guys are interested in, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.